Hello, this is Jim again, and this project was for a company called Artisian de Lux. They are an Italian company where we started this project on March 4th, 2011 and finished it on May 30th, 2011. I was asked to make some samples for this company by a French contact that I met online with the name of William. William started off this project by handing me a sample boot when he visited me in Mexico to meet with the factory that was going to produce his client's boots. We started off by sourcing some leather that was similar to the type that was used to make his original sample, plus some additional types that his client wanted for their production order. We had to source a manufacturer that would make their die stamp for embossing the company logo on their final leather product. This die was made out of steel and cost us $125 for the 2-day turnaround time it took to make the die. We sourced different options for buckles for the client to choose from since they didn't want to fabricate one due to the added cost of making the molds. They chose an inexpensive insole for their final boot. Here you can see an employee going through the motions as he is forming the counter on the back of the boot upper. This process heats up the plastic counter inside the upper so that it can easily form to the shape of the mold on the machine, and then the machine cools off the counter so that it can maintain the same shape for the life of the boot. We made their first sample within 1 week. During that time, we made a sample last based upon the sample boot that was provided to us by William, and from that last we made the first patterns, which allowed us to cut and sew the upper together before we completed the first sample. In this sample, you can see some wrinkles off to the sides of the boot, and we explained to the client that these would be eliminated in the next sample. We also talked about toe spring, the finish of the soles, the type of lining leather that they wanted to use, and some different types of distressed leather that were available. We were making the second pair of samples. We were asking for feedback from the clients on what different type of heel or sole finishes, such as rustic, polished, or natural, did they prefer. We showed them different locations where we were going to place their logos on the product for their approval, plus we informed them that there were problems with the buckle that they chose due to the fact that it kept breaking as the boots were being produced. We ultimately sourced a very similar looking but higher quality buckle from another factory to eliminate this problem. During the same time, we started making uppers using different types of leather, such as suede, in different colors. Plus, we made a sample using leather like they requested as on their original sample they provided to us. You can see we were asking them for feedback on the buckles that we were supposed to use before we found the final supplier. We also asked them if they wanted their logo placed on the heel of the boot as we developed their samples for them. These marks show where the various leather pieces are sewn together in the samples after they were completed. Up until now, all of these samples were kept in-house, and we just sent photographs of them to the client and the agent asking for their input. Here you can see the first samples that we actually sent to the client for their visual inspection. We had been working on this project for 2 weeks up until this point. We made the samples in various colors for their approval. One week later, after we got their approval, we started the production order by ordering steel dies to be made for each of the pieces that were to be sewn together to make the boots in all of the sizes that the client requested. Plus, we had 60 pairs of production lasts made in various sizes so the factory could produce the order in a timely manner. And we ordered the different types of leather that was needed to be processed before the factory could start cutting it into the various pieces that made up the final boot that we produced. Here you can see some of the various production versions of the same boot that we made for this client. As we were developing this boot for the client, they requested us to try and mimic making the leather wrinkled, giving it an aged look before it left the factory. So we worked with the tannery to take some finished cut pieces and spray them with water before they were loaded into a pressure chamber that squeezed the leather together, making wrinkles form into the cut pieces of leather. The technician would fill the chamber with the leather pieces and then close it before activating the pressure inside the chamber, and with the end result being these leather pieces with wrinkles. We ended up making some samples using smooth leather and wrinkled leather for this client. But in the end, the final order that they placed with the factory did not include any of the wrinkled leather samples that we made for them. They only requested it for the samples, but decided against using it in their production order. The fact that we successfully completed this 192 pair production order for this client left the client and broker very happy with our work. After the successful completion of this order, the broker followed up by giving the factory additional orders from companies based in South Korea and in Paris. The broker was happy with the price, the delivery of the product on time, and the fact that we went the extra mile to make versions of the same boot for the client, trying to stimulate additional sales. These boots were made using Goodyear welt construction, 100% full grain leather, leather soles, and leather heels. Thank you for watching, and this concludes this video. This video was made using a collection of photos that I used to send to the clients as I was making their product.